All right. So audience members, you are heard. I will yell, and I'll ask folks in the audience to try and speak up and literally up. Maybe I think that these are our microphones. In fact, I'm like 99% sure I'll watch if I mute. So I'm pretty sure that these are our microphones. Next time I'll ask for a microphone to hand around, but unfortunately there's not one here. So we'll have to project. So excited to be here to talk to you guys about solar leasing. This is our third stakeholder meeting on residential solar leasing. Last time we focused in on, first time we really talked about the plan, and it was only about a 30-minute meeting. Second time we met for over an hour, and we talked about customer protection and education. And that's what we're going to be continuing today. We're going to get through the rest of that. And if we do a third one or a fourth one, then it will be, and I'll ask y'all for topics, but it would be showing you the results, the pieces that we've made, and we can do some training, start training in that. So agenda for today, safety moment. We always start with the safety moment. I'll rock through the first few things here, the why solar leasing, why now, the process, the schedule, and the scope. I've talked about this in other meetings, so we'll go quickly, summarize the last meeting, and then we'll get into the questions. This is going to be a conversation, so be prepared. You know, this is, I want to learn from everybody that's come here today to talk, not tell you necessarily, but hear from you. So let's do safety moment. So it's getting closer to the summer travel season. I know we just booked our family vacation. Y'all are probably thinking about the same. So when you're traveling, these are some tips on how to stay safe. You know, I think the biggest overarching piece here is to be vigilant and to like have your wits about you. But some little things you can do are don't flash your wealth. That's the same for on your body, in your rental car. Protect your documents, whether that means not having copies and leaving in the hotel room, or having even like a money belt. I know it's pretty geeky, but you know, some kind of, you know, we have like a backpack that's uncuttable. You know, things like that. There are some common tourist scams, like somebody finds something and then tries to sell it to you, right. And then you know you have to say like no, and be very firm and walk away. The friendship bracelet is common, and like in Europe, I know, where they act like they're giving you a free bracelet, but then they extort you for money. I had it happen to me where somebody took, after I proposed to my now wife, they took a picture on a Polaroid, and then they printed out the Polaroid and gave it to me, and I was like, that's wonderful. And then they wanted money, and so I gave them like a €5, and they're like, that's not enough, and they got all mad, and I just was like, I don't care, man. I'm at the high of my life right now. Leave me alone. You got €5 out of it. Goodbye. And I had that framed, so maybe it was worth more. But you know, yeah, just have your wits about you. Internet security. Interestingly, what I found was nowadays with encryption, it's not as much of a concern. Just don't. If you're using a public computer, be careful with that, obviously. Okay. So what is solar leasing? This is something that we have only ever allowed as equipment leases, and that's still going to be the case, but we've never really put our hands around it. And that's what we're trying to do through this process. As we discussed on the chat in the last meeting, we don't allow PPAs in our territory unless we are explicitly soliciting for that PPA and it is with us. So no PPAs with our customers, and so that's what we're trying to avoid through this leasing program, are any kind of leases that get into that PPA world, because that not only is against our policies, but it's against the law, and so we're careful about that. This is an arrangement where a third-party leasing company owns the solar on a residential customer's rooftop. Residential customer pays the bill to the leasing company for the lease. And then they also are getting solar credits for the solar generation from Austin Energy, the value of solar credits. And the installation companies may be the ones offering them that lease because they're kind of the point of sale. And they're going to be doing the construction, of course, as well. So why now? Well, what are the complications? You know, I think it's just not something that people here are very experienced with. Customers haven't seen a lot of these leases. And so there's a lot of kind of questions or maybe ambiguity around some of the terms or small print. So for instance, what happens if a system goes down? What are the maintenance pieces? If you own it, it's very clear. That's on you to maintain. If somebody else owns it, how does that work? What happens when the home is for sale? These are all things that we've either talked about or will talk about. But and then of course, what I just mentioned, Austin Energy under state law is the sole provider of retail electricity in our service territory. So why now? Well, we recognize the macroeconomic situation, and with the tax credits going away for residential, it's totally gone at this point. Commercial tax credit lives on for a little while longer, and leasing is a way to turn a residential sale into a commercial sale. So it could get those tax credits through the third party, and then pass that hopefully with lower monthly payments to the customer. So if the customer is looking at their options, we want them to be able to get the best option for them. And if that's leasing, we would like to enable that. And that's why we're doing this. We want to have all the tools in our tool belt ready and sharpened. And we also want to support the local industry. We know this is a tough time for residential solar as a whole. And so, this is just one piece of something that we can do to help out, or to at least give the market more options. Okay. So proposed customer process, we are far along this process, and we're getting close to completing all of this. And I'll show you the schedule here in a minute. But so the idea here is we've been wanting to do an interconnection agreement for a while. We have one for 500 kilowatts and up. We don't have one for under 500 kilowatts. Through the rebate program, customers get a great education on all of our policies, on the value of solar and all the things that we do. But outside of the rebate program, they don't have to do that education program. So there's a gap in being able to give them information. And the interconnection agreement is one way we see us able to give information, pertinent information to customers. So we want to do this anyway. So the way that this fits in is interconnection agreement would be the first page, and then the last page would be if the system is third party owned, then fill out this back page, which would be an attestation. So we're working with legal to form up an attestation where you're basically, that's to protect us from any other retail sales. And that's basically saying, I am not entering into any agreement where a third party is selling energy in Austin Energy service territory. But then the other piece of this is the disclosure form. And that's a way to bring transparency to this process to get everybody's expectations aligned. The leasing providers, Austin Energy, and the customer. So by listing out these pertinent terms, pertinent pieces of the contract, then we're getting everybody's expectations together, so hopefully providing a better customer experience down the line. Also, in parallel with that, we'll have customer education. So we already have a great customer education program. We're adding on to that modules about leasing, or augmenting the modules we already have to include leasing. And then the nice part about this process is that there's nothing new here as far as the way that you'll interact with us, with the permitting system. It's just another form. It's not a new process. So the project will proceed as usual for residential solar permitting interconnection. Incentive. So we have decided to offer an incentive for this. We'll do the same incentive we do for all residential projects, $2,500. To be clear, that will go to the customer, not to the leasing provider, not to the contractor. That will go to the customer. But again, the nice thing here is it's just a checkbox in EECP. It's not a whole new program to try and navigate and learn. It's just tell us when you're leasing so that we're aware. Project scope, legal review of concept and structure, check, done. Community stakeholder meetings, here we are, the third one. Develop interconnection agreement, attestation, and disclosure form, that is all being done. Develop solar education module on leasing, that's also being done. And integrated to Amanda and EECP, this is all being done as well. So this takes a lot of parallel activities. In order to roll this out, and we're shooting for the end of March, I'll show you the schedule in the next slide, it may bleed into early April, but to get all of this done in this short of a time frame, I know this for your world in construction, this might feel like a long time frame, like 3 months, but for us, 3 months is very short for these kind of projects. So to get this kind of thing done, this is what it takes. I intentionally didn't show you all of the WBS, but you see we've got a pretty packed parallel Gantt chart on the right, just to show you how everything's kind of happening all together, all in one project where we've divided up into different teams and are taking this on. So if you'll catch that some of these finish dates are the latest one on the critical path is April 3rd. So that is what we're projecting. We hope to get it done a couple days sooner than that so we can meet that March timeline. But being transparent with y'all, April 3rd is what we're looking at today. Okay. Any questions before? Now it's going to go into all of the question and answer stuff. So any questions about the project, scope, schedule, process, anything like that? All right.
Hey, Micah, this is Stan.
Hey, Stan.
Just a question, do you anticipate any parallel changes in your core processes in the same time frame that may be represented or not represented in this rollout?
That is an awesome question. Because plan review is coming. It's not the topic of this meeting. We are going to roll out solar plan review. And I give a better answer. Does it? I don't see Megan in here. Okay.
Oh,
we'll
okay,
have to
thanks.
leave that for another time. But plan review would be the one process that is potentially getting thrown into the mix here. But we will be doing our review of that interconnection agreement before the plan review step. And so it's kind of all coming together to facilitate us to do the plan review and to do this review of the interconnection agreement. But yeah, that's a great question. Plan review. We'll have to talk more about that later. So, okay. So last meeting, we talked significantly about these items, and some of these we need to go further on. Some of these we can cross off. But generally speaking, the top two bullets: standardized transparency through disclosure form. This is our aim. This is what we want to achieve here is through this disclosure form. Want it to be transparent so everybody has a better experience, and we try and catch anything or before things get too far along, and make sure customers know what's coming. Customer protection through education. So we want to arm customers with knowledge so that they can ask the right questions and they can make the right decisions. So on particular items, payment escalators is something we talked about a lot. And these are three recommendations that came out of the last meeting that I've summarized here. So disclose the escalator percentage. That's makes sense. Now, the proposal was to basically, a percentage is not, doesn't turn into a number in your head very easily. So actually listing out what is the monthly payment year one, what is the monthly year payment in other years, and it seems like a lot of space on a piece of paper to do every year. So instead, proposing maybe year 1, year 10, year 20, something like that. And what would that monthly payment be with that escalator applied? And then the total cost of the term of the lease. So adding up all of those per year monthly payments into a total cost. And that way, it's bringing more concretely the price of this to the customer. And it doesn't have to be an or. I think we may potentially do all three of these if it's agreeable to folks. Performance guarantee. So the top two bullets are legal guidance. Payments must be strictly for the equipment, but performance guarantees are not prohibited. The only caveat is you cannot do a monthly true up on dollar per kilowatt hour refund. So no monthly true ups. The value of solar, and one recommendation was that we show the value of solar value versus the true up values. The challenge there is that the value of solar rate will change over time. So we'll have to think about that. But it's a great point. It's like, what are you getting from the revenue side for the value of solar? And then what are you paying for, or what would your true up value be per kilowatt hour, and can you compare those two together? Ownership changes. So I think we got through homeowner changes. I think we understand that process pretty well. Lease provider changes is something we want to talk a little more about today. Terminating a lease agreement. We talked about early buyouts and fair market value. Still maybe some questions there, but I think we made some good progress on those topics. And then VPPs, this is also something I don't plan on talking about today, but the key pieces here are that, yes, leased batteries would be eligible for the Austin Energy demand response battery program, which is coming out soon. But any third-party control of the battery, any virtual power plant would not be allowed. It needs to be, if you're going through a virtual power plant program, it needs to come through us. There's really no incentive for an OEM or a third party to even operate something like that to create any revenue, because Austin Energy is the entity that would interface with ERCOT, and we would be getting that savings anyways. Okay, so questions for today. I'm going to break out into a Word document, and so we can go through these one by one, but showing you the 7 questions. We're going to talk about how do lease agreements handle performance guarantee true-ups, ownership changes, liens I want to talk about, re-roofing we didn't get to last time, and maintenance terms. How does maintenance work? And then for question number 2, taking those topics and all the other topics we've talked about, how do we get them into a concise way into this disclosure form? How do we create that transparency for these items? And then number 3, taking all the things we talked about and trying to prioritize them. Let's rank them, because we only have a certain amount of paper space that we can have, and we only have a certain amount of education that we can create. So we want to prioritize, come up with some agreed prioritization so that we can focus on those most important items. I want to ask you guys about incentives. I announced today that we're going to offer an incentive, but I think it's appropriate to ask people who have a stake in this, y'all stakeholders, if you think that this is appropriate. We believe it is, but we'd like to get your take on it. And then we plan to ask have the leasing providers sign this attestation, this interconnection agreement, the attestation and disclosure form. And so we don't know what that looks like. We know our local contractors. We don't really know the leasing providers, and if that's something that is going to be a challenge to do. And then finally, just a standing ask for any good examples of education or disclosure forms, and then topics for the next meeting. So let me jump over to the Word doc. Well, no,
We have a question in the chat.
Go ahead and ask the question, and I'm going to migrate computers. Go ahead and ask the question in the chat. Oh, sorry. Okay,
I can read it to you if Camilla doesn't.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Question is, will a solar contractor need to apply to be able to participate, offer this program? Or if we are already approved contractors for the residential rebate program or the commercial standard offer, will we be able to begin submitting applications for the program as soon as it's available?
Sorry, Michael.
So
I heard the
basically,
end.
I can answer that. So the question is do you need to be a participating contractor to offer the lease to customers? And the answer to that is we haven't determined that yet. So, but that's something that we could talk about in this meeting, I think.
Okay.
Certainly, if you want to provide the lease that's with an incentive, you would need to be a participating contractor. But I think we could still discuss whether or not non-participating contractors are able to submit lease agreements.
Okay. I was under the impression the answer is yes, so it'd be good. It's great to talk through that.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Did
Yeah.
you say we're going to take up the whole issue of VPPs later?
I
I
don't.
understand
I think we've
if
passed that issue on. I think we've defined it, and I'm not planning on discussing it more. But do you have any specific questions?
Well, I guess I need to understand. As long as they're not participating in a VPP program, they can still benefit from their battery. Financially benefit from their battery.
They can enroll in
As long
our
as they're not
VPP,
connecting
yeah.
to your VPP program.
Okay.
They can enroll in our. So we have a new virtual power plant-like demand response program rolling out soon, and these batteries would be eligible for that program.
Okay.
But only through the customer. We
I got it.
will pay the customer directly for their participation, but we don't want third-party aggregators stripping the customers of their rights to participate in this program, thinking that they can do it.
Say that, I can't hear
Any
you.
VPPs that exist in deregulated areas would not.
Not only would they not be permitted, but there would be no way to really make money off of it as a provider. We are what's the word I'm looking for? We're the
We're
broker of
vertically
energy.
integrated. We own generation, Bowles wires, and we are the ESP. So you know, if they want to participate, then customers will need to participate paid in our programs, or they can pay the wholesale tariff, I think is another way to go, but I don't think that's super viable.
Yeah, Rachel?
I dug through several contracts after last meeting, and in every single contract, it says that the loan, the provider can enroll the customer without any additional. So what that means is that they can enroll people, but within Austin Energy, it can only be what we say it can be, our program.
When you say, which is our program,
You mean Austin?
what do you
In
mean?
Austin Energy, this
Oh,
one
okay.
that's coming out.
But even that, the incentive is only allowed to go to the customer. So there's no way to route that to the leasing provider.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, and, but just to clarify, like.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so.
The reason we brought it up in the first place is because we saw at least one lease that said all of the rights to the battery and participate in BPP programs goes back to the system owner and not the lessor.
And that's exactly what all three of these contracts said, but you guys can say like, hey, no, this has to be the homeowner, and they're gonna have to figure out how to play nice with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I saw Stan's hand up. Yeah, Stan.
Incentive, and this may be in a lease agreement, if there is an incentive as part of a solar project and the lessee, the agreement stipulates that the incentive, is received by the customer, the homeowner, but is meant to be paid into the project. Would you prohibit that? That's one question. Secondly, in a different context, on your disclosure form and the kind of upfront educational piece, do you plan on describing in very clear detail how a customer will have two bills, one from Austin Energy and then one from the lease provider, and kind of maybe that's down there. So that's it.
Yeah. Good question. So yes, on the two bills, and I kind of have that flagged as value of solar. So let me just kind of, all incentive goes to customers. Would we allow the customer to take that money and put it towards their leasing bill? Yeah, I don't see why not.
We would probably also educate the customer to say, if you're going to do that, you want to see that accounted for, right? It's not our intent to just pass through an additional profit margin to the lessor.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that's the incentive that we're providing to the customer is then used to buy down their monthly payment or, go towards the cost of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I imagine, but it may be a stipulation in the contract, to achieve X level of price. It assumes that the incentive is later paid, against the lease agreement. So, but that would be a stipulation contractually that says that money is meant to buy down the lease. So.
I mean, folks have been doing that with these like bridge loans until they get their ITC and then they pay their ITC. I think I maybe see it kind of similarly. Okay. I think I captured both your comments. Great comments, by the way. Keep them coming, y'all. I appreciate it. Okay, let's hit performance guarantee true ups. So this is my top item. I really want to understand this. Here's Austin Energy's legal guidance. We talked about this already. No monthly true ups for dollar per kilowatt hour refunds, but that's the guidance. Outside of that, we're leaving it open to the market. So my question, and the next two questions are the either side of the same coin. Are annual true ups in kilowatt hours common, or are there, with equipment leases, is it common to not have a true up at all?
I will say the SCIA example that I looked at did have an annual true-up specifically. Like, I mean, I can't speak to whether it's necessarily common or not, but I will say that that example did have an annual true-up.
That's helpful. Yeah.
But I did have a question about that because the rate at which they are reimbursing you if actual production falls short of guaranteed production. I did have a question about whether that would necessarily need to be tied to the value of solar. I don't know if that's something that could be regulated, because if you're being reimbursed at a rate higher than the value of solar, in theory, a customer could benefit, I would think, from getting lesser production. Or if it's, or if the rate you're being reimbursed at is less than the value of solar, the customer loses out. So if those don't match exactly, I imagine that it would have some kind of an impact on the customer.
I wouldn't think we would regulate it, but it would be something we'd want to educate folks on. Yeah, it's a good point. And that's, I think, what one of the points made in the last meeting was exactly getting to that, which was, you know, customer wants to be able to do some kind of math on what their cash flow looks like. And that if the reimbursement amount gets out of whack with out of sync with the VOS, then that math changes. So it's a good point.
Micah, I have had a conversation with a few installers, certainly not everybody, and it seems that most are doing an annual. But I can do a survey if that would be helpful, you know, to all my members. Happy to do it.
That's great. I appreciate that, Pete.
You bet.
Okay. Go ahead, Juan.
You can't do a true up, but it's limited and it depends, the limitations depend on your tax counsel's perspective as a lessor. Basically, you're putting, you know, the at-risk rule. Talk to 10 different tax lawyers, different answers. In this case, I don't think that the lessor is going to be too motivated to have true ups.
So I know Stan has his hand up. We'll get right to it, but you know, I have this captured in a comment here, but I see this as a pretty significant issue. If there's no true up, and we have some more thoughts to get through here, but if there's no true up, it seems like a real gap in customer protection because the customer is paying strictly a fixed monthly rate, fixed monthly payment. And if there's no penalty or remedy, if the system is not being maintained or drops to no production, then why would, you know, the customer is still then obligated to continue paying when they're not getting the value of solar credits? It just seems like there should be some contract mechanism there. And if there's not, I see that as that seems like an issue. So that's why I want to ask this question and be very, you know, get clarification on this. Because if I were a customer, I would not sign that knowing that exposure.
Just my opinion. I think it'll be hard. I mean, I get it, the consumer protection aspects of it. I just think the size of this is going to be really hard to convince, you know, a tax lawyer to rule actually unfavorably against their client, the lessor.
I would say, I'm just spitballing here, but it seems like it's a sales mechanism. The customer, there's too much, uncertainty for the customer. This exactly thing could happen and very likely would. And so they're going to have a hard time making these sales to inform customers.
Not to mention, we're going to put our thumb on the scale in our education piece. We're going to flag this.
I think that's, I mean, sure, but I think if you're a lessor who's operating in a lot of different markets that are looser, if you will, where they can just sell a lease without a true-up or anything like that, they're going to go there.
Yeah, but I would think in most instances, this is not going to be true for everybody, but in most instances, consumers can work with different lessors.
Sure.
Or they can have their solar contractor work with a different lessor.
Sure.
So the consumer, if they recognize that this is something they really need to consider, they're told that, or they're told that they should consider that, then they can make it.
Yeah, and I think this actually kind of gets back to this, you know, you need to be a registered installer with, do something like that. Have the requirements. So, I think it's just really cumbersome. If I want to go out and refi my home, or if I'm car loans, I'm fine. That's simple. But those are simple, like, non-tax based.
All I'm suggesting is that consumer
Yeah, they can, I mean, they certainly have choices. I just don't know if they're gonna, you know,
well, but then it would be up to them.
if they're incentivized to do something like that.
It would be up to them.
But yeah, no, sure. I mean, I'm just speaking from a marketability perspective. It's just, wait, I gotta talk to 5 different lessors.
Well, it's not necessarily them doing it. It would be the installer.
The installer's having trouble selling the product because we're telling them not to buy that product.
And an installer doing business in Austin would know that these 2 products or these 3 products meet those requirements. Then they wouldn't necessarily have to go out every time and try to do a bunch of research about it. And they would automatically know. What I'm hearing is from most of the installers is that the lessors they're working with have true. I'm not sure this is as big of an issue. I mean, I think we've solved the PPA problem or the wording of the PPA just by saying, we don't do it that way, then we're gonna have another problem. So I think this is a reasonable, unless some of the installers on this call want to chime in.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that this is not necessarily an unreasonable solution.
I've heard mixed things. So let's hear from Stan and then Kaiba. And then, and just quickly to summarize, we're just having a discussion about, one, whether this is a problem because everybody hopefully offers an annual true-up, but I've heard otherwise. And Tuan is conveying that it could be a challenge for lessors to provide that true-up because of tax law risk aversion, I suppose. And I don't quite understand all the dynamics there, but that's kind of the summary. Stan, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple thoughts on the true up. Another, I mean, if we're really talking about consumer protection, we should put the litmus test against current cash offerings, which arguably have far fewer protections. And I think to maybe establish a floor for consumer recourse, and then maybe another way to qualify a true up is to say, what is the threshold when an asset is not performing? What recourse does a customer have? So this will be a contractual term that could be surfaced in your disclosure form to say, under which circumstances does a customer have the right to, terminate or back out of the agreement? So that's kind of a nuclear option, but it would be, rather than a true up that's about performance, it's really about breach of contract or something like that. So I think that would be important for consumers to know. And then secondly, I think just let's contemplate this in comparison to cash deals, because currently consumers don't have a lot of recourse, certainly not on production, other than the direct relationship with, a provider.
Or conditional for finding.
Yeah, and loans would be sort of baked into that as well. So a couple things to think of there.
So in a cash deal or a loan, the maintenance is squarely on the customer, and that's, and this is.
Absolutely.
That's what
It could
you're
be,
kinda
it could be as agreed or as paid for, which may or may not include production guarantees, but the nature of it, doesn't, a straight cash deal historically in Austin has not included any performance guarantees, explicit or otherwise. So consumers kind of left, unfortunately, on their own in that case.
Right.
And I'd also like to say TDLR is taking this on in terms of upcoming consumer protection rules. So that might be solved on a statewide basis anyway. I think so. I think that's what's going to happen.
Dan, just to show you,
Basically, just in terms of performance.
you did read my mind, Stan. I mean, this is kind of where my head went. If we're not, if annual kilowatt hour true ups are not common or there's a gap, then what other options are there? So we'll get to that next, but I want to hear from Kaiba. Go ahead, Kaiba.
Yeah, I guess I was going to similarly, reiterate, I think we discussed last time when we were discussing that disclosure form, having an item on there related to true up. And I think there, Stan, kind of discussed the, quote, nuclear option of like, how do you actually get out of the contract? But I would love for there to be line item on that one pager or two pager, whatever it is, that says, rate or mechanism for compensating underperformance. And if the answer is none, then they put none. And I think that's, at least there's transparency and you're saying you'll put it in the education as well. So hopefully the consumer is getting the message that like, this is something they probably should expect. And if it's not there, then maybe they need to go to another provider and get another quote. So I definitely think that transparency is like a key piece. And I would say this one's an important one to, have front and center.
We can also put in that document, Kaiba, that if it happens to you, report it to TDLR. They've got a project. I mean, we now have police at TDLR that's going to go out and bust people. So anyway, that's another thought.
So Micah, just quickly, Stan is right from my perspective. Can't guarantee KWH lessor. What you can do is you can provide an availability guarantee. That doesn't run afoul of the at-risk rule. So I think that's a very elegant way. So if you're the lessor, you say, hey, look, you're going to have 8760 or 365 availability, 365 is the best way to measure it. 8760 then gets RP, but right. 365 availability of 90%, right? Like that's pretty good protection, right? Because the installer, they can't really control customer, homeowner. They can say, okay, well, I'll watch the modules. That's going to be marginally beneficial. Yeah, they take that on their own. But the lessor who owns the equipment, right? They want to make sure that it's available and producing. I mean, just think of it like a landlord and tenant, right? I want to open up a bakery. Well, can you, the landlord, guarantee that I'm going to have a whole bunch of customers come in? No. But you have to guarantee that I can access the property.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah. It sounds like, though, it is an option. Some are doing it. So maybe we just need to provide, like Kaiba was saying, kind of some lines about how they're doing it. So we, in the disclosure form, like I just sketched this out, what's the true up type? And if it's uptime, then let's say that. And if it's none, let's get that on the table because that's a flag for customers.
Yeah, and I guess I would say not just the type of true up, but like the actual rate should be also disclosed there on that form.
Yep, that's my vision as well. The true up type to really get people to be aware of how it goes, and then the true up rate, and then is there a true up escalator?
Oh yeah, okay, I see it there.
Yeah.
Fixing.
No, we're on the same page. Yep.
Hey, Micah,
Yep, thank you.
Just to plug in, and I couldn't quite hear Tuan. I think it was Tuan talking. One thing, if we have a disclosure form that's it's a summary of a very long agreement, the customer behavior is they will resort to that disclosure form to make appeals to whatever happens. So that becomes, unfortunately, sort of it's difficult to go back to the contract. And I think this issue, just from our experience, the lease provider is actually aligned with the customer to have systems that perform for the same reasons the customer wants. I mean, it's a little different perspective, but they're requiring of contractors and to provide a performance guarantee, a maintenance requirement, just to be eligible to represent their product in some cases. So there are layers to this that I think are designed to ensure a good experience and a functioning system. I think there's a concept though that I would think we'd also need to surface on the disclosure form. It's not just the rate and the number and the what type of true up, but it's the set of customer responsibilities and lease provider responsibilities and contractor responsibilities, the sum total of which adds up to a system that is managed. They're practices that build in safeguards against systems not working. And I think that's actually quite important. So the leasor, the lease company does have a maintenance requirement, but it has a very specific things, and those would be distinguished between different lease options. How often are those maintenance checks? What is the monitoring like? What is the communication like? So I think we should be careful about putting just a number, because the behavior we've seen is when 1 month is below, they're going to be calling, I need a true up. This month it didn't perform as well. And that's a nuisance behavior that discourages everybody from doing this, with integrity. I mean, it's hard to keep up with that. So that's a cost that's now borne by, the industry. So that's my industry perspective. But I think there may be some other things we can put on the disclosure that flesh out, what substantiates a true up conversation.
Got it. Yeah, I think I captured what you were saying in the system management detail piece, and then flag other terms because I have a maintenance, proposed language around maintenance in the disclosure form as well. I am realizing we don't have till 4, we only have till 3:30. So Stan, if you, would like to send me an email offline, I'd love to hear your thoughts or anything you're basing, your thoughts off of, any other paperwork you've seen. I would really appreciate that if you have the time.
Okay, I'll stand down, Mike. I'm getting the message.
No, that's not what I meant. I just mean, I just want to keep things moving. No, I really appreciate your thoughts.
Kidding. I hear you.
The message is I want to hear everything you have to say, and we don't have time for it all. Okay. So
Micah, and I just found one of the contracts, I was reading through it. So there is a clause about like how to, arbitration clause. And those are in every.
Arbitration clauses.
Yeah.
Got it.
Of like what to do and how to escalate if things aren't working out like you.
I have that flag somewhere. I think it's even down at the bottom. Arbitration location. Yeah, I mean, so you can't really sue. You have to settle through arbitration. But I think that's common. I see it in every loan agreement, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So, question for folks. If let's talk a little bit more about uptime, and this is going to dovetail into maintenance. So, what does that look like? Tuan mentioned the hours of availability. Is this the standardized way to measure uptime, or are there other metrics that you've seen in lease agreements? I see Kayaba has a hand up. Kayaba, go ahead and ask your question, and love to hit it.
Yeah, it's a real quick one, just about the arbitration. I mean, arbitration is considered generally a pretty bad deal for the consumer. And so I'm curious if, as a stipulation for participating, it would be possible to, just not allow arbitration requirements in these contracts.
I'll flag it and we can talk about it with legal, but that seems like a tough ask. That seems like a pretty standard. Like I remember in solar loan agreements, it's in all of those from what I know of. So it might be a tough ask, but we could flag it with legal.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this true up stuff? Like, obviously, I think this is a pretty big customer protection concern, so I wanted to spend the time on it. Other ways that if it's not a kilowatt hour true up, are there maintenance requirements like that the lessor's responsibility for maintaining the system? Is that something that's in the contract?
Yes.
Can you elaborate, or you can send it offline if you'd like?
Yeah, I will send you details offline because everybody's a little bit different, but happy to follow.
That would be one way to protect the customer. That'd be something to look at. That's good. Okay, so they have to keep
Micah,
it.
I'm hoping once the TDLR rule comes out, it's really gonna help you guys to shorten some of this. And you could just say, based on TDLR rules, this is blah, blah, blah. So that, if a consumer has a problem, they can go to TDLR for relief.
If you have any
don't
insight
necessarily
into
have to
like
be the
where
real
that's
guy.
at or how that's happening, send it to me. I'd love to.
Oh, no, it's happening.
I want to hear about more.
There's
Yeah.
gonna be a we've been working on this since January. There's a public comment period getting ready to come out. They have to post it probably in the next few weeks. I'm gonna let everybody know. I'll let you guys know if you wanna let all your
Yeah.
approved
Yeah, yeah.
installers know to look at it. And then after that, by summer, we hope to have it enforceable.
Okay.
It could help you shorten some of this and,
Yeah.
or, so that you don't have a 15-page document.
I appreciate that. Please send me details and I'll digest them. Is there an escalator? Okay. Is there generally an escalator on the true ups for those who know about annual kilowatt hour true ups? Does, like, we know the monthly payment's going to be escalating. Does the true up value escalate as well?
I apologize. What's going on behind you? Is that-
Yeah, that's a funky screen, man.
Oh no, somebody put it on together mode.
All right
Hey,
then.
Michael, I see you. I'm gonna take it off together mode. How do I take this off?
Keep it.
I like it.
Let's roll with it.
I don't know how to do it. View, all right. Let's do. I don't know how to turn it off. Somebody maybe online can do it. Because I think one person putting together mode puts us all on it. Whose screen is showing up here?
It says Tim Mahoney.
Well, Tim raised his hand, no? Okay. Yeah. Oh, somebody else may have grabbed the screen share. Hold on. That's what's going on. Okay, I'm back.
All right.
Okay, Tim Mahoney, go ahead. Tim, we can't
I don't
hear
have
you.
anything. I'm good.
Okay. All righty then. So no answer on this. Monitoring. Is it standard for, it seems important if there's production guarantees for the customers to get monitoring. Is that something that is standard? Do they get inverter-based monitoring? We obviously have the meter data that they can receive, but that's not as granular as inverter monitoring. Did it happen again? Somebody's trying to share their screen over mine, please.
Tim Mahoney again.
Tim. All right. Steal it back. Maybe we need to like lock this into like we do for contractor meetings.
Yeah.
I need to figure that out. Okay, we definitely have meter data, and I would assume they get inverter.
There's a comment in the chat from Stan on that. If I can pull it back up real quick. Monitoring is standard and required.
Love that. Okay, we're gonna change subjects here. We've covered homeowner change in the last meeting. We're gonna do lease provider change. I just want to understand how this works. So we're gonna try and keep this very focused into one question. The customer signs up with a lease originator. That originator sells the lease to a lease servicer. How does the customer know who to contact for maintenance? Do they contact the originator? Do they contact the servicer? Is there really no change in the user experience during this process? Do they always kind of know they're with the servicer? Do they contact the contractor? Who do they know? Or how do they know who to contact for maintenance issues?
So if, it should always go, say they sign it through like LightReach or GoodLeap, it's always gonna stay with LightReach or GoodLeap, even though it's like tranched on the back end and sold to a different, still contacting LightReach or GoodLeap.
I would think legally, Tim, they would have to let the customer know that they sold their, if they've sold it, I mean, just think of a mortgage. When they sell your mortgage, they let you know, this is
Yeah.
the
New servicer.
new, or insurance companies or whoever, they kind of have to let you know. I would think that that's legal, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
and
does it,
like-
if it doesn't change who you pay to, then it wouldn't really affect you.
Like hypothetically, if the lessor goes out of business, then it's gonna, somebody else is gonna
Pick it up.
take ownership, and you will be notified because they want you to know who to pay. You will know.
And it commented it would be in the contract.
Be in the contract. So is there any objection here to having that in the disclosure form? The company I should call for maintenance is, here's their contact information.
I think that
There are no
makes sense.
objections.
And some sort of note about, committing to update the customer if that should change probably would be good.
Great. Okay. Non-payment. Last time there was we seemed pretty clear that the only lien is on the equipment. But there was one comment that maybe started to break that a little bit and mentioned that there could be a lien added later on the real estate. Just wanted to ask one more time in these meetings, is the lien only on the equipment, or are there instances where the lien could be on the house itself?
That was my comment.
That was your comment?
Yeah, if the lessee refuses to pay, then if the asset is registered as a separate and distinct asset under UCC, then, yeah, I mean, you can throw a lien on the underlying real estate.
Wow.
Yes.
Unilaterally?
It has to do with, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it has to do with certain statutes about doing work and getting paid. That's an asset that you've done work on top of that property. Ultimately, what is, they don't pay, if the lessee doesn't pay, then what's your recourse? Recourse has to be, okay, well, beyond just, this is going to be an expense associated with removing and then reinstalling that asset, et cetera, et cetera. And you've got to cover that. And if you can't put hooks into somebody, I mean, that's how you put hooks into them. And that's actually how Texas law works.
Is that something that would have to be in the original contract? Or is that something that
It
is just?
does, I mean, ideally, if you're the lessor, you would have something like that, reference to that in the contract, the ability to. And the language, I mean, I could look at it. There is language, I mean, if you get a good real estate attorney, they'll put it in there.
We'll flag that, something for homeowners to look out for.
I know a couple of contractors.
Scary if they can add it after the contract. Yeah.
They might, but I'm told that there are a few contractors out there that have leasing, that are lessors that don't have that in there. So I don't know if they can come back later, but
It's a law issue, it's not an arbitration issue. I mean, it's just, like, if I'm a contractor, I perform work on somebody's home, they don't pay me, then guess what? I'm throwing a mechanics lien. Same principle.
Got it. Okay. Something for us to put in education. Roof replacements, who pays, obviously the roof itself would be paid by the customer. But the act of taking the solar off, storing it, putting it back on, would that be through the customer's insurance like it is if they own it, hopefully, or on the customer generally? Or is that something that's in the lease and it's as responsibilities of the leaseor? No?
Yeah, it's explicitly the responsibility of the home. They'll have to pay to have it removed, replaced, and then.
Okay, that's something we should flag. It goes into our general, that's the same as guidance we would give for a loan. So want to have your roof have at least 15 years of usable life before you enter into one of these. Any other contending or different perspectives, or is that pretty well shared across everybody?
A finer point on roof replacements is that insurance companies pay for the cost of removing and reinstalling.
That's what I was asking. So insurance companies, got it.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah.
You have your roof insured.
Still the responsibility of the homeowner.
Still the homeowner's
Correct,
responsibility.
it is still the responsibility of the homeowner, but to the extent that you're warning them about, hey, your roof has to have a 15+ year, expected lifetime, that's, well,
Fair point. Yeah, but you're right. We'll flag that. Make sure you talk to your insurance company before, to really get solidified on what they'll cover.
yeah, I wouldn't even necessarily, the insurance company, it's in all, I mean, your insurer is gonna cover your roof.
But you may have to pay a rider potentially.
I mean, if you want to insure the equipment as well, which, I mean, if it's leased, it's owned by a lessor, then they've got insurance on their own equipment. So it's best for the consumer to be silent on the matter.
It's my understanding if something is attached to the roof, you have roof insurance, the insurance company has to pay for it.
Correct. It's good to hear. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, just on this issue, the roof replacement, this would be something to highlight. There's likely exclusions in any kind of true up or monitoring, production guarantees. This would probably be a case, and the customer needs to know. I mean, if they've got a roof replacement that could be, the system could be offline for some time frame that's outside of, everyone's control, and it would affect the production. And what does the lease payment require in that circumstance? So.
Good point. Okay. Maintenance terms. My big question here is who maintains this? Is it the lessor, the leasing provider? Is it the contractor that originally does the installation? Is it a third party that the lessor brings in? Who maintains the system over time?
It's typically, from what I've seen, a third party.
And that third party is indicated in the original contract, or does it come later?
I haven't seen them named outright, but just that a third party.
We're gonna get whiskey, and then he got McAllen 18 today, so I'm like, hey,
Who got him that?
CD.
That's nice.
So I was like, okay, no whiskey.
Hey, let's mute our microphones, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mute everybody if I can.
They took over the screen again.
Oh, it said it would mute everybody but me.
It's very hard for the lessor to enter into a long-term O&M agreement with anybody. And to the extent that a third-party installer, the O&M provider, look, I mean, they may or may not do it. There's nothing requiring them to do it. Do they want to do it? No, they'd rather install new systems and make more margin than, go out and try to fix a liability, an unknown quantum associated with it.
So then that brings me to terms. I mean, what
Again, this
contractual terms?
TDLR is gonna cover this in their rules.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I mean, the TDLR stuff, I mean, that's all well and good, but I mean, similar to things that are regulated at the state level, I mean, there's very limited recourse against fly-by-night installers.
We're solving that issue in the new rules. So we're putting in fraudulent terms. They've got a posse to go out and find these guys.
Posse.
Yeah, I say that, but we now have teeth. We've never had teeth. And I hear what you're saying, Tuan. I'm gonna let you know when the public comment period opens, and I would love for you to respond, because a lot of this stuff we have thrashed 3 months.
And to defend,
We've
Well,
gone
I know
over-
Tuan's
over-
kinda given
same
us
kind of
the-
process, exactly same. kind of
Tuan's kind of given us the real view of things, so I want to emphasize, Tuan's on our side here. And so I appreciate you being just real about it.
And then we have our administrative director. Online, so.
I can't do it until after the comment period opens. I'll let you know, it's on the governor's desk, draft's on the governor's desk right now. Once it comes off his desk, it goes out for public comment, 30 days, but I'll keep you posted.
Okay, yeah, but you come.
Down to 11 minutes, keeping us moving. Let's just connect offline. So heading into the disclosure form, I've kind of sketched out some ideas here, and I'm going to be putting it to paper that I will be happy to show you guys in our next meeting. But this is kind of what I'm envisioning, and I'd love your feedback. So I'll give you the opportunity to read the payment escalator piece. We've talked about it a little bit already in the summary, but now's your chance to tell me if you like this, if you don't like it, you have objections, you think it would work, you think it won't work. Okay. Going to keep us moving, performance guarantees. So this is just our legal language, but the disclosure form possibilities. We could talk about the type of disclosure form, the true up dollars per kilowatt hour if one exists. If there's a true up escalator, what % that would be. And then, like Stan was mentioning, kind of trying to line out the responsibilities of the different parties. Any other ideas to add here? Any thoughts about these? Cool, good. Keep moving. 9 minutes left. Ownership changes. So my understanding from the last meeting is if the home is sold, the new homeowner would have to qualify for the lease under their own credit score and whatnot. And there would be a fee that would the seller of the house, I believe, would have to pay. Is that fair to put in this disclosure form, what that fee would be? Is that something that they could read in the contract? And
It would be in the contract.
okay, good deal. Any other transparency around ownership changes we should be aware of? Yeah.
I saw something about like that the lessor has like up to 30 days for this. So I would say, like, I don't know how we could put it in there, but the wording, but some time frame. They can take.
30 days to do what?
To transfer that.
Ah. Transfer the lease. Okay, that's a good one, thank you. Maintenance terms, I've already floated this with y'all. It sounds like this is going to be a challenge. Is there, I mean, I know it's going to change over time, but is there a day one maintenance provider that could be identified at this disclosure point? I know it may change. Can it be the lease provider at this point or the original contractor?
Yeah, it's typically the original contractor.
Yeah, they're gonna have some sort of.
Hey, Mike, I'm not sure it's wise to try to stipulate that. I think ultimately the leasing company is responsible, and they may or may not, there may not be continuity between the original contractor or not. In terms of a service agreement, I think I think that might be overreach to get into their contract. In the end, they are responsible.
So maybe it's the lease provider and they can direct you to the original seller if that's the right party. That's the one continuous piece here is the lease provider until they then sell it.
Yeah, because you imagine, depending on what the maintenance requirement, whether it's preemptive, regular, or reactive, they may decide to do things. There may be a number of ways that they solve that. It's not simply the original installation company.
Okay,
And the only reason I said original contractor is for warranty.
for warranty purposes.
Because that's backing a lot of the maintenance terms for the day one question.
That's helpful. Thanks, Chad. Okay. Okay, I've added these already. Okay, so we've made it through 1 and 2, which is the bulk of the question. So now, top 5 priorities. I think I'm going to propose these top 2. And y'all can agree or disagree. And then ownership changes seems like a pretty important piece. What other big items on this list or outside of this list? And it doesn't have to be top 5. Just like throw it out there if you think that there's a very important piece here that we want to make sure to focus on. Placements, you got non-payment, liens, roof replacements, maintenance. I mean, I think maintenance is floating to the top. Battery control, I don't know if it's a top priority, but it is important. Tax credit clarity and general clarity around the bills. This is one that was brought up earlier. This seems like a pretty key piece. Any other priorities? Okay. All incentives go to customers. I mean, I think this is just something we'll make sure is flagged.
I think fees and
So-
penalties is super important. Anything that involves payment is going to bubble up.
Yeah, good, thank you. All right. 5 minutes. We are planning on offering an incentive for this, but keep in mind, the incentives come from the ratepayer's dollar. So every ratepayer pays the CBC. I should say most ratepayers pay the CBC. And that CBC fund then funds our incentives. So keep in mind, like this is every Austin Energy customer paying into this that then gets allocated to these customers. So we always keep the mantra in mind of being wise stewards of the public dollar. So the idea, the intent of an incentive, in our view, is to increase customer participation, to help customers make an investment that mutually benefits both of us. So in your view, will this result, by offering a $2,500 rebate, will it result in increased customer participation?
Why wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, it could inflate the costs and just become added profit margin to the leasing provider. That's one devil's advocate.
I would say give it.
Yeah. So without it, so okay, so the cash deals are going to go up in price.
Without question.
Okay. Understood, because of like safe harboring or something.
ADCBD.
Gosh. Okay, 232 I know. I don't know the other one.
ADCBD and 232.
Okay. I'd love to learn more. Could you reach out to me on the, I don't know what ADCDV is. Sounds like ABCDV. Okay, tell me more on that. I know section 232. What's that?
Anti-dumping countervailing duties.
Oh.
Tariffs.
Tariffs.
232 is also a tariff.
Okay. So it seems like we're getting a yes here. Any objections to yes? Not hearing any. Good deal. Is it going to be a tremendous challenge to get the signatures of the leasing providers on the disclosure forms?
How do you envision this playing out? Like, the homeowner fills out this form and then has the leasing company sign it?
The contractor is kind of the main facilitator of the rebate, so I could see them being the kind of main point person on getting this form filled out.
And then the leasing company.
That'd be up to you guys, how you want to extract, get the information into the form. But
I
yes,
can
leasing
see it
company would prefer-
prolonging the deal.
What's that?
I can see it prolonging the deal because the person they're going to be talking to is not going to have permission to sign company probably. They'll have to send it to their lawyers.
That's what I was wondering,
It will prolong
exactly.
the deal.
Yeah, I think that that's really challenging if but if it's like, you know, the installer is completing it and then is doing it for like an interconnection agreement or something, like.
That's what it would, yeah.
Then I think that, sure, great. But
Okay.
if it's the leasing company, that's a really far reach.
Yeah,
Right.
and they're national, most of them
Well-
are, you know, national. I just don't, it's gonna be hard.
It's going to be pretty important for the leasing company to agree to the attestation. So how, you
Yeah.
know,
So, I mean, like, yeah, I think that with like Austin Energy, you guys can stipulate, like, if you approve of a leasing provider operating in your area, so you can like kind of deal with that on the front end, and when they're approved, kind of like your contractors, then, you know, sure, you got free. Yeah, but I think you can approve it. That's very good. Like the company.
yeah,
And look into their contracts if you want.
we weren't planning on going that route. Seems like pretty burdensome for, yeah. So we'd like to be able to be pretty agnostic to the companies that provide leasing in our territory. But that being agnostic comes with having to sign this, basically.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Were we thinking about having these companies, you know, kind of like your approved solar installer list?
We were not planning to go that route.
Why?
Because one, we do that for rebates, so we could potentially go that route for the rebate side, but we weren't planning on it.
I mean,
We-
if all they have to
It
do.
would get us into the business of reviewing contracts, which we're not, we don't have that competency or availability to do that.
If all they have to do is sign an agreement saying they're willing to live up to their agreement to the homeowner,
For like a master
a
attestation,
master, right? And they get on a list and they're approved. And,
I don't know how helpful that would be. Like if they don't, if they already have an agreement with the homeowner and they don't value it, you know, we don't have any way to like regulate that. If the leasing 10 years down the road doesn't do anything, we don't have the legal resources to go after them, and it's not gonna impact it. Typically, when we do go after companies like that, it does change.
well, how do you do it with solar installers?
With solar installers, with a very limited amount of criteria, we can grant them, you know, our rebates. But the deal there is that, you know, they're closing the deal. It's a shorter term relationship, you know, not a 20. So we're better able to control that, you know, in our efforts for customer protection. But I don't have the confidence that for a leasing company like alone, especially. I want to be
plus the
really,
originator is gonna sell it to a servicer immediately.
yeah. I want to be really careful.
It's a challenge,
Of trying, you know, we've
not to be dismissive of your opinion. It's hard.
Was there ever a standard practice with, phones? Letters?
Something like that. So we are at 3:32. This was my last major question. My other two questions are, send me good examples of things of education that you find out there. By the way, we did an Ask eSource, didn't get a lot. The big answer that we got back was most utilities are being pretty hands-off with leasing. LA does a thorough review. San Antonio does a thorough review. And those are the only two that we heard that really do.
Did you reach out to SMUD?
They are a member of eSource. I don't know if they responded to the survey. I'm not sure.
I think they've got a fairly decent program. You might want to see if you can find somebody at SMUD.
I could talk, we know SMUD.
We know.
What's that acronym for?
Sacramento Municipal Utility District, yeah. They're a municipal like us, and they are generally pretty far ahead of the game on these kind of things.
Very much like a sister utility to
Yeah.
us. On a lot of dimensions.
So,
And they allow it. They've been doing it a while.
Okay.
They've got experience.
okay, I can reach out to SMUD.
I would just say, I mean, you kind of gotta be careful about over-regulating here. And, you know, like Valerie said, I mean, there's limitations to this, and you can kind of throw the book at consumers and lessors and contractors in especially over a longer period of time, I mean, everything's just out the door. And so I would just say, I would just suggest that maybe have recommendations that you provide to the consumers, especially if they're taking a rebate, and just say, hey, look, we're trying to help protect you from this, to look for a performance guarantee, look for X, Y, and Z, these kinds of things. That's just a favor to them. That's the extent of what you can do, because at the end of the day, I mean, they're the lessee, they're kind of in this weird way, like selectively taking responsibility for the asset. So, gray area, then that gray area, whether it's lessor or the lessee, I mean, you don't want to expose also energy to that.
I agree with him. We overregulate this, make it too cumbersome, we're not gonna have a success. And we need to make this as easy as we can and still within your line, you know, your guardrails and protecting the consumer and all that kind of stuff. But wherever we could just advise rather than require, I totally agree with you. Right now, this is pretty heavy duty.
I like to hear that we're taking a pretty firm hand on things without totally wrestling it and controlling it. That's what we're aiming for, a nice middle ground here.
Yeah.
So I hope that's what's coming across. Next meeting, I plan to have something to show y'all. We can start to look at the actual documents. Does that sound like a good plan? Any other items you want to make sure we talk about in the next meeting? Cool. I want to thank y'all for your time. I want to thank everybody on the call for your time. Not only your time, but your expertise and everything that you bring to this. Like, we are obviously learning as we go, and you are a big part of that. And so thank you for being part of the community. Thank you for being here.